Hello and welcome to the Health Odyssey podcast, episode 311. Now, today we are joined by a very, very special guest who is someone that I have known. I was just thinking back, probably around 14 or 15 years now, and who I've kind of had various kind of relationship with over the time. And very recently, I kind of was at an event in London, and this guest was speaking or comparing, emceeing the event, and it was just amazing to reconnect with him. And he's been doing some fantastic things recently, which we'll talk about in a bit, and obviously has an amazing backstory as well. But we're joined by Mr. Pete Cohen. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm good, James. It's
Yeah.
it's good to be here with you and Peter. Peter or Pete? Peter?
Whatever you like.
Pete.
I've been called
Pete.
lots of things.
We'll have Pete and Pete. I think we'll have Pete
Yeah.
and Pete. Now, Pete. I mean, obviously, you've been, on TV over the years. I saw recently you're on This Morning again, talking about Hannah's story, which is a documentary that you've made recently, which I know has won lots of awards at festivals and things like that. Which is a very personal, intimate kind of documentary that you made. Do you want to kind of just kick off, I suppose? I mean, just to give us some context about kind of what your life in terms of your passion and what you have done through your life, and also, well, no, just start with that because I know that you've changed recently in some ways.
Yeah.
I sense and I can sense and things. But yeah, we're just going to go where this takes us, really.
Fine. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak to your audience, and congratulations on 300 plus podcasts is a pretty consistent effort. Not many people do that. I think most people who do a podcast do a couple of episodes and that's it. So thank you for all of the content that you've put into the world. For me, I'm not the person I was. I think we all know that we change in life, but sometimes life throws major stop moments at you where all of a sudden nothing can be the same again. I mean, I remember you, James, before you became father. And I bet when you became a father, all of a sudden the whole world changed and the world has never been the same again. And then you had another child and the world changes again. And what's fascinating for me is about what has forced me to change. And as you mentioned about that film that I made this documentary, when my wife passed away and my coach told me that I needed to find a way to celebrate in my suffering. So that's probably the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's probably one of the things I'm most proud of. I'm like you, my background is in health and fitness. I became a fitness instructor in 1989. I'm 56 now. I love health, I love fitness, I love life. And probably like you, both of you, I love to help people help themselves. For years, I used to think I was the person who changed people's lives, but that's ridiculous. I realized that the greatest role I will ever play in someone's life is listening to them, putting my hand out, giving someone a different perspective of where they are. So I like to empower people. I like people to empower themselves through the content that we have. So yeah, I've written books, I've spoken all over the world. But I feel like I've only just got started, really, because I think a lot of that was kind of done out of insecurity, and a lot of it was done out of trying to prove myself to the world, looking for acceptance, looking for validation. Now I'm not really looking for those things anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe if you're okay to talk about it, if you're comfortable talking about it, you know, I mentioned to you, I watched the documentary a couple of hours before coming on with you today. I had seen it a couple of years ago, but I watched it again in preparation for this, and it's so powerful, and it affected me. Like you say, we change through life, didn't we? And there's that saying. I think Pete said it before. You can never step in the river at the same place twice or something. So
Yeah.
when I watched it now, it had a different effect, a really quite emotional effect on me, which I'm sure it did at the time then, but it just seems to be more vivid, maybe because I just
Yeah, yeah.
rewatched it. But yeah, can you talk a little
Yeah,
bit about it?
of course,
Yeah.
of course. So I met Hannah in 2011. I met her actually, sorry, in 2010. I met her at an airport. I was on my way to do a speaking engagement in Croatia, and I was in Ted Baker at Heathrow Airport, and I was just about to buy something, and then I stepped away to something took my attention, stepped away, and then I tried to step back in the queue, and she was behind me. So I just kind of that awkward moment of, oh, hang on, well, you should go in front of me. And she looked at me like, what an arsehole. And then I remember her looking at me, and then I said, oh, my dad would be really disappointed if I don't let you go through. And then the next day I saw her, she was in the audience of the place I was speaking. I think we were always destined to meet. I don't know exactly how the universe works, but I think people are brought together for a reason, and of course we're not here forever. So we met, and the ash cloud in Iceland, that was in 2011. I'm sure you both remember that, but everything was grounded and the world stopped, and we were stuck there. And if that hadn't have happened, I would have gone home. So it was a stop moment. I wasn't really looking for a relationship. I've always run away from relationships. I've always like, I don't want to get too close to anyone. But I couldn't run away from Hannah. We got together. We were stuck in Croatia. We saw each other. We dated, and then after a year, we were at my parents' house, and she had a massive epileptic fit. And that's when I kind of really had to step up. I'm probably a bit like both of you. Give me a difficult situation, and it's like, okay, well, I'm not running away from this. I don't really know how to run away from. I know to run away from myself, but I don't know how to run away for in situations where other people are involved. So it's a very long story. People can watch the film, but she was diagnosed with a very aggressive brain tumor. She wasn't given very long to live. She had surgery. She had radiotherapy. The tumor came back very fast. I found a treatment in America. You probably remember we raised $250,000. We went there. It was miraculous. I fell in love with her. We got married, and I'd like to say we lived happily ever after. We did have a great life. The back of my mind, I was always thinking, shit, this could come back. I've always lived in fear, and I've always been frightened of death. Not so much now, because I've experienced a fair amount of it. My mum died in 2018. My dad died in 2018. My mum died in 2021, and Hannah sadly passed away in 23 after she had a secondary cancer, still in the brain, much deeper, 6 months to live. I found another treatment in Germany, was miraculous. You see it in the film. I mean, you weren't there, but I was there in this house. I remember she couldn't use her fork, a knife. She couldn't sew anymore. She was a professional. That's what she used to do for a living. And she made this miraculous recovery. Then she got COVID in 2021 and passed away. No, she got COVID in 22 and died in 2023. So mad story. But that film has already touched the hearts and minds of many people. So yeah, it forced me to stop big time. Best thing that ever happened to me, worst thing that ever happened to me.
So I mean, it's huge, isn't it? I mean, the and then what happened with so you made the, I mean, the film, it is a brilliant documentary, just in terms of, I'm going to sit down in the next few days and watch it with Steph, my wife, as well, because I don't think she's seen it, but I'm going to sit down and watch it with her. And what happened in terms of, I think a friend, you'd obviously, so the purpose of making the film when you made it, because obviously it's totally raw, it's totally honest, it's unflinching, it's beautiful, it's funny,
Yeah.
it's everything. What made you kind of get it out there more and start putting it into some film festivals and things like that?
Okay. So there's a story behind this. So in 2011, when Hannah was first diagnosed, we both had to stop work. We needed to raise some money. So we sat around my parents' kitchen table, a group of us, and thought, how are we going to raise money? So we started a blog. You see that bit in the beginning in black and white. Hannah and I went away for a few days. I filmed her. She started crying. I filmed everything because we were sharing this story publicly at the beginning, right? We were asking for money. We had a blog. So I actually bought out a version of the film in 2012 because she'd made this miraculous recovery. It was called Hannah's Anecdote. And, you know, but then I carried on filming, not because we were filming our bits of our life, you know, like getting married. And she used to have scans every 6 months, every year. Oh, 5 years cancer free, 6 years cancer free. And then, of course, when she got sick again, we needed help once more. Uh, and I thought it was a right thing to do once again. Well, just to share with people what was happening, give people updates. You see it in the film. And then when she passed away, and my coach said, find a way to celebrate in your suffering. I didn't know what that meant. But I woke up one morning and thought, you know what? There's a story here, and the story has ended for me in one way, the death of Hannah. A part of me died. I thought I've got to put this into something that I could show with her friends and her family that would give those people a chance to see kind of how this played out a bit. So I finished it. A friend helped me, which was so helpful because it was quite tough. I showed it to someone quite famous who many people know, Ben Shepherd, who's a TV presenter and looking fabulous in his 50s, a great advert for us, those of us that want to stay healthy and well. He looked at it. He said, show it to my mate, showed it to his mate. His mate, who's a filmmaker, said, enter it into film festivals. I went, why? He went, well, it's good. It could win. Really? So I just entered it. It's not easy. It's easy, actually, to enter films into film festivals. There's a platform. You just doesn't cost much. Got turned down, got turned down, got turned down, got turned down. And then the World Cannes Film Festival, they have a number of smaller festivals. It told me it had been selected. And then they told me it won. I was like, you're joking. And then, of course, because it won there, other people started seeing that. More people started looking at it. And then it won more and more film festivals. And then we just had a premiere in London a couple of weeks ago, which was a beautiful experience, being in a cinema, big screen, 200 people who all knew her. A lot of them knew her. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome, really.
Is it? This is funny because there's a thing there. Even the perspective of the film changed because it won something, and then these other people were like, "Come have a look at it again."
Yeah.
And you said, and I've done it. You said you were looking for validation and stuff when you were younger, and now you're not. And I've done that with it's pretty common, isn't it? And it's that's kind of the journey in the film by the sounds of it already. People were turning it down, and then one person says yes, then it wins, and then people are like, let's have a look at that again, and then watch it with different eyes. So it's really
fitting, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. And then the result of having been on this morning, which was again thanks to Ben Shepherd, he mentioned it to his bosses. So the last time I was on this morning was like 20 years ago. He mentioned it. He interviewed me, and then a few other people saw that, and then we had the film premiere. Kate Garraway, who's quite a well-known TV presenter, who I know, whose husband died, Derek. He had he got COVID right at the beginning. It was a horrendous story, and she nursed him. There's a documentary about him. I was actually at his funeral, and she came along and she asked a question at the end. She said, "What can we do to get this out there?" I said, "Well, I don't know, tell people." So she got her phone afterwards in a taxi and said about the film, 600,000 people have viewed that. So, and then a few thousand people have watched it because of her. So it is a crazy world, isn't it? That you kind of, but you have to, I suppose, as my dad always said, son, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And then often who knows you. And often people know you because of something you've done for someone else. And I know probably, you guys in the industry you work in, you've dedicated your lives to being there for other people and creating a space for other people.
And I remember I met your mum and dad as well. I remember years ago, going to the house, I think, and meeting them both, So it's, I mean, how so your new perspective, if it's a new perspective that's kind of now changed you. You've come out of this, and like you said, it was an experience. It was the worst experience of your life, but without it, certain things wouldn't have happened in your, for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, how have you changed yourself, do you think?
Well, I think in life there's two versions of me. There's the version I show the world, and then there's the version that no one really ever gets to see, apart from the people who are very close to me. There was never really great alignment between the two, so a lot of it was a show, a performance, and that came out of insecurity from a very early age, thinking I'm not enough, I need validation, I need acceptance. So a lot of my life was a performance, and this forced me to stop. I used to think stopping was dangerous. I just thought I just got to keep going, keep churning stuff out, keep being busy, being busy, never very present. So this forced me to, I couldn't outrun the grief. I don't know if either of you ever experienced grief in your life. I mean, we've all experienced it in some way, but it was the most intense emotion. I couldn't outrun it. So it made me face myself. I think, you're a fan of Star Wars, aren't you, James, if I remember rightly?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you remember Empire Strikes Back when Yoda says to Luke Skywalker to go into the cave. And he goes into the cave and he sees Darth Vader, and he gets out his lightsaber and chops his head off. And the head falls on the ground, and he looks, and it's him. It made me face myself, made me face all of the shit around myself that I built, of protection, who I thought I was, which is not very nice. It's hard to look at that stuff. But underneath that, I discovered the essence, I suppose, of who I really am. And I mean, when you know someone and you spend time with someone, you get to see who someone is. So you've probably got a pretty good sense of who I am. I've probably got a good sense of who you are. And you could probably see sometimes I was just putting on a performance. You've seen me on stage. But now I just think there's much greater alignment. Like what you see is really kind of what you get. It's not a, let's face it, I think that's why there are so many mental health problems in the world, because people aren't showing up as themselves. They're putting on an act, putting on a performance.
I think, I'm sure Peter Lamp wouldn't mind me saying, when we spoke, he said when he first saw you at talking at this event, which was like, what did you say it was? It was like,
it wasn't talking. It was, we were chatting in the bar. And I was with my mate Steph from here, and she was talking about, I can't remember what she was saying, but she said she didn't feel good enough to do what she was doing or something. She was a PT, and you were very kind of, you started coaching her in the bar and saying like, you can be whatever you want to be and blah blah and all this, and I was like, that's quite, and it was just one of those things. I was like, that was quite full on at the time. And now seeing you now, you're a completely different person. And I've only met you once, right? And that's what I remember. And that's just how it was at the time, So it's just funny seeing you, because I watched the This Morning thing as well, and I was like, that's a different person.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, because a lot of people have said that. In fact, the woman who probably gave me my biggest break, she used to review diet books in the Sunday Times. She reviewed the first book I wrote. She introduced me to GMTV and the work that we did. And she said to me, it looks like you've arrived. It looks like you've come home. And in fact, my coach came with me. And I think he was just so proud of you. You were just yourself. We live in a world now where everyone's trying to be heard. And if you don't have a profound sense of who you are and what your value is and who you serve and how you serve them, you just get drowned out. To know thyself, like all the Stoics, which again, James, I know that you're a big fan of Stoicism. It's that ability to stop, right? And stop for me is suspend the out of date performance. Suspend the out of date persona. I don't have to be that person. I still go into that role sometimes, but you probably smell it a mile off. Like, what are you doing? Just be you. Just be you.
So I was going to ask, when you said about this, previously earlier because I used to be a trader for an energy firm, right? So a bit of a wide boy, right? If anyone knows what that means, but that wasn't me. That's who I became through the job. I got a job doing it, and then I sort of became that role. But the role shaped me as a person. And then when I stopped doing that, I became me again later on. So I've done a very similar. I was like wanting to be validated within the job and all of that.
Yeah.
And I now know that's not what I wanted to be, but I had to go. I went through it, right? And I feel better now for going through it. If I hadn't have gone through it, what it would be different, right? We will never know. Do you think there's pressure on people? Because it's like, most people go to work and then there's somebody at work, there's somebody at home, they're a different person with their parents, they're a different. Is the pressure on that, especially with like, I don't know if it's different now with social media and that, and people have got a social media persona as well. Like, how much pressure does that put on people?
Well, it's hard to know, isn't it? But I think we know that there's probably more anxiety and more depression than there's ever been. So depression tends to relate to how you think about the past. Anxiety tends to relate to how you think about the future. And I think we live in a world where we see people find it hard to be very present because it's so easy just to get caught up in ideals or who you think you should be. And we see more suicide than ever, especially amongst males, right? So what's really going on there? I think it's pain, unresolved trauma that we don't want to show the world. Someone I've been coaching, a lovely guy, he was abandoned by his parents at a very young age. They were deported. He was just left here. He was like 3 or 4 years old. And you can imagine that that's going to have an impact on someone. Sometimes you don't even realize the impact that something has had on you until how things play out in your life, And I think that's something I also realize now is the importance of, looking forward's great, but sometimes we've got to look back. We've got to look at how our life experience has shaped us. So this is really powerful. It's how our biology has been shaped by our biography,
Yeah.
And just to have those conversations like we would, I don't think the three of us would have any problem at all saying anything that happened to us in our life because we might feel some shame, but we feel safe enough to talk about our lived life experience. And that's what the world needs more of, right? More open conversations where people, because where people say, if you get something off your chest, that's a wonderful expression because sometimes you have got it off your chest because the trauma is in you, it's in your chest or your stomach or somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, it's we had a guy on the podcast last time we spoke who was Pete and I were both at the Royal Albert Hall at the weekend watching. He's a strongman, in one of these big shows performing in front of thousands of people at the Royal Albert Hall. And a lot of these guys have got real YouTube personalities and they've got loads of sponsorship deals and they're out there making money, building a personal brand, all this kind of thing. And this guy he's married, he's got 2 children. He said, well, I'm happy. He said, I don't, because I asked him if he would want to develop that kind of thing, and he said, well, he goes, I'm a bit older. He said, I'm 30. He said, I'm a bit older. He's 34. He's 34. He goes, I'm a bit older. He goes, when I came into Strongman, I was married. I've got 2 children. He's got another job, a career. He does this, and he's one of the top sort of strong men in the country. But he said, I'm happy. He goes, why would I don't want to jeopardize that and kind of start mixing my personal life and sharing too much, and and it was just really nice to hear him say that, actually, that he just does that as a hobby. He's very good at it, but he doesn't want to try and promote himself or be anything else. He's happy with his life, so yeah, no, it's interesting.
Well, I saw this Buddhist monk who's quite famous on social media being asked about, someone said, are you happy? And he stopped and he kind of was saying, well, happiness is a bit overrated. I'm I'd rather be at peace.
Mm.
I'd rather be at peace with where I am. Happiness is fleeting. And I think ultimately that's what I think a lot of us are searching for, to have a level of contentment, have a level of peace with where we're at in a world that is full of chaos,
Mm.
and that's what I'm more interested in that now than I've ever been. But it's been a complete change. Life is completely different. And yeah, I feel optimistic. And I was thinking about this morning. I'm actually going to be on Davina McCall's podcast next week, which is amazing. I've always wanted to meet her. I really respect her and on the work that she's doing and what she's been through. But she was interviewing Richard E. Grant, who's a famous actor, and Richard E. Grant, his wife passed away of cancer, and Davina McCall's sister died of cancer, lung cancer. And they were saying how lucky they were to have these people in their lives. And it just made me think, wow, I'm going to say that to Davina. I listened to that podcast, and you said that, and it brought a tear to my eye, because it made me also think about how lucky I was to have Hannah in my life. She's not in my life now in the way that she was, but she's still with me. We carry people, don't we? That's a wonderful honor in life, is to carry the people who have poured into you so you can pour into others.
That's
Davina was on a podcast. I can't remember which one it was. And she was talking about her sister, and there was something she said which I thought was amazing. Because she saw her sister's back or something like that, and she had a mark on it, and she said, "Have you got that checked out?" And it came from there, and that was like, she was ill and all that sort of stuff. And it was like, how often do you see other people naked, right? People, and I'm thinking about this not in physically, I'm thinking about it metaphorically as well. You know what I mean? People don't show themselves, do they? So they're hiding all these scars and all this illness and all this, like, this stuff. Whereas if they just show themselves, like we've just been talking about, it's kind of, it lets people see that, and then go, right, here's how you can be helped, or here's who you need to go and see, or whatever. It just opens things up, doesn't it? And I thought that was really powerful what she said.
Yeah. I don't know why that is, about why we don't want to show who we really are to the world. I think it's probably, everyone's different, but a lot of it is to do with survival, just trying to fit in, not being rejected. We are tribal people. We live and thrive in groups. But there is something magical in acknowledging where you're at, and acknowledging that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to need help. I mean, who do you guys go to if you ever need help? Who do you talk to?
I've got loads of people.
Yeah.
I've got my girlfriend Sean. I've got a whole group of people. I've got a walking group as well, and we talk about lots of things. So we just go out walking and talking, and lots of people.
What about you, James?
I probably don't actually share too much. I mean, I've got Steph, my wife, but not really. I wouldn't say I've got kind of friends that I open up to. Do you know what I mean? Like, I probably more internalize things than I should. Definitely, I think so. That's something to think about. Definitely.
I mean, I had a coach for 16 years. He was like Mr. Miyagi from the Karate Kid. He was from the Philippines. I met him when I was 29, and I was so lucky. And now I've been working with someone for 5 years. He's from the UK, but he's a professor in America, and it's such a wonderful thing when you can walk a path with somebody else. I mean, I know the work you do, James, and I know, the environment that you've created for so many people to feel that they're part of the community, for them to get fitter and stronger and healthier. And it makes such a difference. Community makes such a difference. That was something that my coach, when he was alive, said about, he traveled and lived with indigenous people around the world. And he said, one thing you see everywhere with indigenous people, they all sit in circles.
Mm.
Everyone has a place. There's no one that's better than anyone else. There are elders. The elders are definitely, you look up to the elders, but there's no hierarchy. There's just this community of we are all one, you
Mm.
know? And I think that's a big issue with the world at the moment, a lot of loneliness and isolation.
Mm.
And I would really have struggled if I hadn't had someone or some people to help me go through the darkest period of my life.
So do you, the coach that you have, that you've had for the recent, or recent, this coach currently you've had for a number of years, you said already, is that someone who you go to share all of your kind of thoughts
Yeah.
and what's going on? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I met him probably 5 years ago, and he looked at some of my work, and he was quite critical of some of the stuff I was doing. Um, and then when Hannah got sick again, I was just talking to him pretty much every day. He
Mm.
lives like in the States, 5 hours behind. And then when Hannah passed away, and after the funeral, 3 days later, I was there with him in Indianapolis, and we started walking and talking, and I recorded the conversations.
Mm.
I've now put them out into a podcast, believe it or not, called Stop to Think. The
Mm.
first 4 episodes are what we've recorded recently. But then after that, the next ones that are coming, they're all conversations we had 3 years ago. And
Mm.
basically all I'm doing is sharing my story of, I suppose, recovery, overcoming grief. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out, that people are hearing a story unfold, you know?
Mm.
We'll see.
Yeah. No, I have to stop to think.
Yeah.
How much of this as well? So you were saying you were working with a guy who was abandoned when he was a kid, and obviously I presume you've worked with lots of people who've got things that have happened when they were younger. Because there's something I think about with kind of like when people try to, because you said, if you look back, that's where kind of depression lives and anxiety lives in the future and all of that sort of stuff. How how do you get people to move? Obviously, you've got to try and look at what happened, but a lot of people do that and stay there, don't they? And kind of say, right, let's try and figure out why and what happened and all that, and they stay there for ages. And it's like, but if you keep concentrating on that, you're never going to go, you're never going to move away from it. So how do you get people to kind of come to terms with that? And how have you done that, and that to allow you to then move forwards? Because I think a lot of people stay stuck when actually it's like, right, well, you're ready to go with the next part of your life now. Where's that going to come from?
Well, my brother actually is a psychotherapist, and his wife is a psychotherapist, and they have clients that they've seen for many years, right? And my brother as a psychotherapist, you have to have therapy yourself. So everybody is different, and I used to think people should move on, and I think everyone has to find out their own way out, you know, and all I can do is speak from my own experience, that I like to look back and I like to understand how my past shows up in my present. But I don't want to spend too much time there, because I want to spend as much of my time being as present as I possibly can. So everyone has to find their own way, don't they? And I do know that often what people has been through in their life can have such an accumulative effect that even when people try and move on, they keep being challenged by the similar patterns, similar emotions. We just don't really know how people's lived experience has affected them. I admire anyone who puts their hand up and says, you know what, I need help here. I need to talk to someone. I need to try and make sense of this. But I'm probably a bit like you, Peter, in the fact that you probably wouldn't stay there for too long, because you probably love life. And to love life, life is now. Life isn't in the past. Life's not in the future. This is it. There is no future. This is the future. Welcome to the future.
Yeah.
This is it.
So, Pete, can you tell us the tattoos on your arms, which I don't know, some people might be watching on YouTube, some people will just be listening, but
Yeah.
you've got it on the inner arms, is it
Yeah.
breath or breathe?
Breathe. So
Breathe.
I went on a bit of a crazy little mission a few years ago. I actually went to Ukraine. I've got some friends there. I looked into it. Obviously, it's a war-torn country, but they were in Kiev, and Kiev is quite far away from the fighting, even though it still gets, bombed. So I went on a train. I flew to Poland, and I got on a train. It was a crazy thing to do. But I was asleep, and I had a dream. And in the dream, Hannah said, "Breathe." And I'd never had a tattoo. I'd never thought I'd ever get a tattoo. So I found a tattoo artist in Kiev. And I'm a big fan of breathology, the breath work of, I came across breath work in the 90s. And I know Patrick McGowan, who wrote The Oxygen Advantage. And yeah, so, breath, it's the most important thing I will ever do. And I have to remind myself.
And then on the other side,
yeah, intention is, I think in life, everything has an intention. So I'm surrounded right here. Well, you can't see this, but I'm surrounded by plants. I have got so many plants here. I love my plants. They're going to grow. Their intention is to grow, right? So a guy that won the Nobel Prize in 1937, a Hungarian guy, came up with a theory called syntropy, which basically means every living cell lives to express itself. His intention is growth. But it might not always grow because nature can be cruel, right? So my intention is always growth, but also to remind myself, if I'm doing something, what's my intention? It's an amazing thing because it's like, if my intention is because I want to be heard or I want to be right, it's not always a great intention. But it used to just say intention with no S. So I got the S on the end and the S is in red. And that was because you might have heard of this expression, the road to hell is paved with good intention. Because we could have good intention, but intention is a noun. Intentions is action. So I want to be a person of action, So I think an intentional life is a wonderful life, right? Now, what's your intention for doing this podcast? You've done 300 more episodes. What's the intention? Is it just fun and you want to see what happens? I mean, that's fine, isn't it? But what is it? Why? What's the point of it?
Well, the point of it is to sort of spread, kind of to introduce listeners to lots of different people, speak in all areas of kind of health and well-being and wellness, but to kind of cut away from sort of jargon and hype and that kind of thing, and really try and introduce them some different concepts and some different. It's not lots of podcasts just are about how many sets and how many reps to do and but it's more about actually helping you live one of the things is helping you live a long, strong and energetic life, in all areas. So that's kind of the intention.
Well, let me, if that's okay, let me give your listeners something that they probably already know, because there's no rocket science in this. Human beings, we are not designed to move for no reason. We're only designed to move for reason, and we know through our evolution the reasons were run away or run towards to get something to eat or to attract someone. Or no, we don't move for no reason. We're designed to conserve energy so that when we need it, we've got it. That's why when we eat, we could eat a lot more than we need to. We can store food. And so I'm sure I'm not the only person in the world that has gone through periods of just not feeling like doing something, like exercise. And that's often your body is trying to protect you, going, well, I'm going to give you the feeling like, don't do this because we don't need to do it. And unless we learn to think greater than we feel, then we'll always be a victim of how we feel. And I think we have to look beyond how we feel sometimes. Look at what are the thoughts that have created that feeling, and you know that often the greatest thing we do is move beyond the feeling of I don't want to do it to then do it. And what's one of the greatest feelings the three of us have ever experienced? Surely it's got to be, I didn't feel like doing that, and I did it, and now I feel like, you know.
That sounds like this morning.
Yeah,
Seriously,
that
was me. That was me this very morning.
Yeah.
So yeah. What I like there is so my intention for doing this, by the way, is same is what James said, basically, because we obviously do it together, but I get to learn from it as well. I get to speak to people like you and Thomas, who I had on about grief, who would never spoke about that before. So for me, I get to speak to people, I get to learn, I get to ask questions that I want to ask as well. But also it helps a lot of, but hopefully it helps a lot of people as well. So that's my intention for it. But what you said earlier about wanting to grow, cells want to grow, you want to grow, all of that. And I think you've just described it there is the feeling that people get from the thought that they have or whatever. And it's like things grow. So your plants grow, you've put the seed in, but you give it the environment where you are and you look after it and you create the environment for it to be able to grow. Because if you just plant the seed and leave it, it's, you know, in a heat wave and everything, it's just not going to work, is it? But if you water it and, you know, that's your thoughts, that's your actions, that's your intentions, isn't it? The watering of the soil and the feeding of the plant and all of that is going to make it grow. And that's what I think about when people do something. They think like they plant a seed of an idea or they set a goal or whatever, and then just go, right, that's that sorted. It's like, no, now you've got to create the environment for that to happen.
Yeah, and that's where growth really, like you said, it's where growth happens. In fact, this plant here has got some mushrooms growing in it. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I've never seen mushrooms grow on a plant in my house. And I was reading about it this morning, and it was saying that those mushrooms will be fine. They won't do any damage to the plant. You've just created an environment where those mushrooms can thrive. And that's often the growth that comes out of, we don't know. You don't, you know, you might want some change, but with the change there comes uncertainty. And that's why often people don't change, because they can't handle uncertainty. But to have change and let things happen, you never know what might happen as a result of your efforts. Sometimes unforeseen things do happen. But yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing, you know, this podcast and your other podcasts with the people that follow me, because that's another wonderful thing that we can do. We can all help each other grow. I mean, surely that's the other major point of life, right? Helping others grow.
Yeah, this is Pete. I mean, like I said, when I met you, it was probably about a month ago. Yeah, around maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, when I met you most recently again in London. Straight away, I could, you know, you can sense a change in energy, can't you? And you certainly can, and certainly on this podcast as well. Um, so you're coaching others still now, and how do you feel that you're coaching because of your change and your experience, as the way, obviously the way you coach others has changed because you have changed, but has that kind of deepened your empathy, or what can you just kind of tell us how you think that's changed for
I'm
you?
just kind of dipping my toe back in now. You know, it's been 3 years and I'm not actively out there looking for work. Work is sort of coming to me a little bit, and I'm just being really patient. But I'm just, you know, you hold space for people and you see what happens having a conversation with someone and helping someone overcome often what's in their way and helping someone see a future that they want to go out and create. So I feel like I said right at the beginning, I've just got started. And in fact, in less than 10 minutes, I actually have a therapy session with a therapist myself. I've started working with a therapist again because I've started seeing someone, and in a new relationship, it's like, well, when someone's passed away, it's like, well, how do I manage that? Because it's brought things up that I want to address. You know, you can only go so far on your own. Sometimes we need the help of others, like strength. You know, if you want to get strong, you want to do it on your own, or you want to find someone who can coach you and support you in getting strong. I'd rather work with someone. So yeah.
Oh, Pete, thank you so much for joining us. And I know how busy you are at the moment as well with everything that's going on, and with with the film and everything. I mean, if people want to watch I mean, I would highly recommend anybody listening to watch Hannah's story. Where do people go to watch that?
Yeah, just go to teamhannah.com.
Teamhannah.com.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you said there about being busy. I'm not that busy, and I don't want to be busy, you know. It might look like I'm
Yeah.
busy, but I
Yeah.
really don't want to be busy. I don't ever want to be in that point again. I'm sure I will be, but I don't want
Mm,
that to be a defining point in my life. Like,
yeah.
oh, you are busy. No, I want to be present, right?
Mm, yeah.
So thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate both of you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so
That'd be
much,
great.
Pete. It's yeah, go to teamhannah.com, watch Hannah's story. Thank you so much, Pete. It's been, hopefully, I'll be in touch. Won't leave it so long. We'll see you again soon because yeah, it's fantastic what you're doing and lovely to catch up with you, okay?
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for watching, listening. Please share this episode. I mean, this is I think everyone can take something from this. There's certain episodes we do, and I think what Pete's talked about there is something much needed by many people, me included. So please share this with someone who you think will find it useful, and please subscribe and share and follow us and all the rest of it. And if you can, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts as well. And definitely, that's the one thing I want you all to do is go to teamhannah.com and watch Hannah's story. It's a remarkable film. Until next week, we'll see you on episode 312. Thank you, Pete.
No worries. I'm going to go to Apple Podcasts and leave you a review.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter Land.
That's all right. What a great episode that was.
Brilliant. We'll see you all next week. Bye bye.